Traffic was a little crazy this morning, so I apologize for the delay in getting started. It's really great to see all of you again as we kind of get rolling for the fall season. I hope you guys all had a really refreshing summer and you're energized for a new year for the EDC, which I'm really excited about. We have a lot of exciting opportunities on the horizon for our committee and our community. First and foremost, I'd like to extend a very warm welcome to our newest member, Mike Carroll. Hello, Mike.
Hi, everybody.
We are thrilled to have you join us, and we're looking forward to your fresh perspectives and helping us to, be a great addition to this team, and look forward to making a positive impact on the town together. As we embark on this new season, I'd like to take a moment to refocus on our goals and the vision we share for our local economy. This year, we'll be continuing to support our businesses, exploring new development initiatives, and finding innovative ways to foster growth and opportunity in Westborough. So let's dive in with a spirit of enthusiasm and collaboration, and I'm confident we'll make this a truly productive and impactful year. Thank you all for being here this morning, despite all the traffic that we all dealt with, and let's get started. First thing on the agenda today, we want to look at the the approval for last month's or July's Economic Development Committee meetings. Did everyone have a chance to take a look at the minutes? Are there any questions? Can I get a motion to approve the minutes?
Motion to approve.
Can I get a second?
Leonardo, second.
We'll do a roll call.
Leonardo, yes.
Gingras, yes.
Coker, yes.
Bagden, yes.
Mayor, yes.
Christy's still on. Christy, still on? No, she might be coming up.
Okay.
Williams, yes.
Yeah.
Great. Okay. Minutes from July have been approved. Thank you very much to everyone else. First on the agenda, we have today Allison Powers, and she's going to talk about the Westborough real estate vacancy, which is near and dear to all of our hearts. Welcome, Allison.
Thank you, everyone. I'm Allison Powers. This is my partner, Bob McGuire. Where is he? Oh, there he is. And we are with JLL, and we've been working in the Metro West market basically my whole career for about over 15 years. And Bob, how many years are you?
Just under 30.
Let's pull this up.
I'm a neighbor, but not a Westborough resident. Live next door in Hopkins.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here.
All right. So we put together just a macro look at the Westborough market. Can you guys all see this? Oh, that would help. And sort of in reference to what we reference as the 495 Mass Pike West market, which is what Westborough is a part of. So you're going to see some slides that reference that, and that's really just the greater, the boroughs and extending along 495 to the north and the south. So I'm in.
Can you unplug and plug in?
Yep. It worked a minute ago.
So cool.
Always.
The test went perfectly.
It might just be. What that? That isn't. Yeah, of course. Did something there.
I have it also, so maybe.
Yeah, if you let's try.
No.
Technology. It's always so much fun.
Perfect. All right. All right, so just to give a quick overview on JLL, JLL is a national commercial real estate services provider. In addition to brokerage services, we do project management, development, property management, et cetera, and we are sort of all over the world. So as I mentioned before, Westborough is in this light purple area that we refer to as the 495 Mass Pike West Market. The market on a square footage basis is about 11 million square feet, and Westborough is about 27% of that at 3 million square feet. And this is in reference to office space only. And I'd say historically, Westborough and Marlborough sort of lead the way in the market in terms of both volume, but also interest from tenants. You know, oftentimes requirements are focused on the boroughs, Westborough, Southborough, Marlborough. In the past, Westborough was definitely considered to be better amenitized and sort of closer to 9 and 90, which most tenants were looking for. However, recently Marlborough has really sort of leveled up because primarily due to the influx of amenities with the Apex Center, which I'm sure you guys are familiar with. That has been a huge draw for tenants who want to be near those retail amenities. But we still see tenants that sort of favor Westborough and some favor Marlborough. Typically, they start their requirements off looking at both communities and then often will choose one or the other, which is why oftentimes we rely on the Economic Development Committee to come in and say, you know, how can we make Westborough more attractive than Marlborough? Lara and I have had a few conversations about a tenant recently that's considering both markets. Marlborough historically has been very proactive with TIFs and sort of helping tenants sort of feel like Marlborough is going to be a great home, which has been difficult to compete with in the past. That sort of stopped recently. They're not quite as proactive, but it is something to keep in mind, you know, in the future. So this is just a historical look at the Westborough market, that 3 million square feet of Class A office space. In general, the market's been pretty stagnant. You know, in terms of vacancy rates, we always are around 25 to 30%. You know, rents you'll see have been very consistent going back 10 years, you know, sub $20 per square foot gross to a peak of about $22 per square foot gross. You know, compared to our neighbors in, you know, for example, Framingham, those rents jump up quite a bit to sort of that high 20s per square foot gross. And then if we go further west, it's very similar. So oftentimes tenants might look in Framingham, but they do, you know, the rents are much higher there. So they, you know, if you're cost conscious, you're not going to make that move. And then compared to the greater, you know, the greater market, again, it's very consistent. We're around 30% vacant and our rents are hovering around that $20 gross range. The things that impact sort of the rents and the vacancy, which are the two things that we sort of look at to determine if a market is healthy, is, you know, one of them is sublease supply. So, you know, just in broad view, when a tenant is no longer operating out of their space, but they have a lease obligation, they will put it on the sublease market and try to sublease it through the remainder of their term. What's interesting, and right now in Westborough, there's about 3,000 square feet of sublease space on the market, which is about 50% of the total sublease supply we're seeing in the greater 495 market, which is quite a bit of space. And that's primarily due to two, you know, Park Place Technologies, who's at One Research Drive, has 90,000 square feet on the sublease market. That's a huge piece of space. And then there's some other smaller ones like United Site Services. They're over on Flanders Road. So, you know, that certainly impacts, you know, that vacancy and availability rate, and it isn't necessarily a great thing for the market. The other thing that would impact it is new supply and new construction. So historically, you know, sort of west of 128, there's been very little new office construction, mainly due because the market's overbuilt. There's a healthy vacancy rate. Why would you build a new building? We've got plenty of vacancy already. There's been one build-to-suit in the market over the years. It was in Westborough, and that was the HQ for Olympus at 800 West Park Drive. So that added 150,000 square feet of office space to the market. Historically, we haven't seen that, you know, anywhere else. However, we have seen space removed from the market, which has actually sort of helped keep the market healthy because, again, we had too much supply, so taking some away helps that vacancy rate get a little bit better. So the picture you see on the other side is 4400 Computer Drive, which I'm sure you're familiar with. That was the former headquarters of BNY Mellon. They relocated within Westborough. That building was vacant and purchased by Amazon to do a fulfillment center. Amazon has yet to do anything with that site, and we'll come to that in a little bit in the presentation. But that took, you know, 400,000 square feet of space off the market once Amazon bought that building and we're no longer counting it as office space. So those are the types of things that we sort of track and try to make sure, you know, we're ahead of. But in general, you know, there's a lot of space in the market. People aren't really building new buildings. When larger requirements come to look for space, they're looking at the existing supply, rarely looking at new construction because it's so expensive. In terms of the ownership profile in Westborough, we've got a mix of sort of investors and users, occupiers. So from the investor standpoint, the largest commercial landlord in Westborough is Caruth Capital, which is the Egan family of EMC, Chris Egan. I don't know if you're familiar with him, but he owns, you know, 1.4 million square feet plus of commercial office space in Westborough. His headquarters is also in Westborough. Great landlord, very well capitalized. They do everything, you know, without debt, so they can be they can be an advantage to tenants who are, you know, need to come in and build out space and are looking for a good partner. You know, some of the properties they own, which I'm sure you're familiar with, are Westborough Office Park, which is an 8-building office campus. They've actually invested about $15 million into the campus over the years. They recently put the intersection in on Flanders Road. Caruth paid for a lot of that. Which helps, you know, attract tenants to that park. It's a beautiful park and has always been considered the nicest office park in the market. Other investors that have a big chunk of space in the market are Atlantic Management. They own the Amazon Robotics over on Otis Street. And then Ferris Development. I know you're all familiar with the big white building, One Research Drive. That's a humongous building, about 283,000 square feet. From a user standpoint, we do have a lot of owner users in the market, which is great. So we've got eClinical Works. They own 3 buildings in Westborough. Cumberland Farms obviously has their huge HQ in Westborough. And then Amazon, that 4,400 Computer Drive building, they own that in addition to leasing from Atlantic Management. And in terms of, you know, the larger tenant occupiers in the market, a lot of the same names we just talked about. You know, you've got Amazon, eClinical, and Cumberland. But we also have Eversource, who owns at 4 Technology Drive, Astellas Pharmaceuticals at 8 Tech Drive, great tenant to have in the market. Olympus, obviously, we talked about them. Park Place, we talked about them sort of in a negative manner. Unfortunately, they've got their space in the sublease market. BNY Mellon, we were able to retain them in Westborough. When they left 4,400 Computer Drive, they relocated to 118 Flanders Road. And then recently, UMass relocated from Worcester into Westborough to 50 Washington Street. So it was great to grab them. So it's a mix of a lot of, you know, Westborough tenants that are growing and staying in Westborough and then attracting new tenants in. So we're always looking to, you know, you want to bring new tenants to Westborough and compete with your neighbors and, you know, win those requirements. So UMass is a great example of that. They looked all over the market and chose Westborough, primarily due to, you know, Caruth Capital owns that building, great landlord, you know, was able to, you know, showcase their strengths and, you know, why they'd be a good partner. Lara and I had a couple conversations in terms of big blocks and development sites in the market. So obviously you drive down Route 9 and you notice, you know, empty buildings and land and what's going to happen. So I'm not going to get into all of them, but some of the larger ones are sort of interesting to note. So these would really be come into play for a large requirement, similar to that Olympus requirement who came and took down 150,000 square feet many years ago. If you're a huge tenant and you're looking to potentially build or relocate into a large block of space, where can you go? So 25 Research Drive is the former BJ's headquarters. That building sold to Samuels for $29 million. It's a 60-acre site. They're not looking to reuse that existing building. Their goal was to scrape everything and build GMP manufacturing, which is essentially pharmaceutical manufacturing. That was a huge buzzword in the market 4 or 5 years ago. Everyone felt like we're going to build these buildings and people are going to start manufacturing their drugs. Unfortunately, that sort of trend stopped and shifted. So they have not done anything with that site. And TBD on what they do in the future. They paid a lot of money for it because you can get a lot of money in rent when you build these types of GMP buildings. But it's it's permitted to build up to 715,000 square feet over 3 buildings. Those would be single-story buildings. Whether they pivot, TBD. But their goal there was very much pharmaceutical manufacturing. The EMC Causland Drive land is primarily in Southborough, but there are pockets of it in Westborough. And that has been on the market for a while. It's a huge site. You could build up to 1.8 million square feet on that site. Atlantic Management recently purchased one of the existing buildings, but there's a lot of land left, and TBD on sort of how that shakes out. It will likely become some sort of industrial, in our minds, an industrial development site versus, again, office. People aren't really building office. 4,400 computer drives on this list just because that building is mothballed. Amazon is not doing anything with it. Could it be an opportunity for someone to come in and buy it from Amazon and say, listen, I'll take the site off your books? Maybe. I think that a larger tenant would consider that and potentially make a play for that. They also paid a lot of money for that because an industrial building is worth more than an office building in certain respects. 900 West Park Drive. That is the eClinical Works building on West Park Drive that has been vacant since it was built in 2001. Every single time we do a tour at Westborough Office Park, which is one of our listings, tenants always ask, why is that building empty? What is the story behind that building? It's a very attractive building, and it's just been empty since it was built. EMC built that building. They never ended up occupying it. They kept it vacant. They ended up selling it to eClinical, but eClinical never occupied it. They kind of eventually felt like they would grow into it. I think something happened with their business where they didn't end up needing it. So it is currently on the market for lease or sale. So they are marketing it, trying to get another tenant. It's up 193,000 square foot building, so it's a good size. So that's a good one. And then there's a ton of land sites on West Park Drive that are also owned by Caruth Capital. The nice thing about these, off these sites is they are permitted for office. They're fully permitted, so they've already gone through that process. And you could combine many of them to get up to 500,000 square feet of buildable area. So for sort of some of these larger requirements that might peak in the market for land, those sites certainly come into play. And there are more smaller sites, but these are the really large sites that we seem to track and would present to a larger user. Tenants in the market. So we track tenants that are looking to relocate into Westborough and other parts of the market. So these are some of the names of tenants that are looking for space today. This is just a snapshot. For example, undisclosed tenant, typically tenants won't say who they are until they actually get out and tour. There's some confidentiality to these requirements. We can kind of guess of who we think they might be, but this is a group that'll likely tour in the near future, probably sometime in 2025. Again, they're probably going to look 150,000 square feet of existing space is getting harder to find. Will they start to look at some of these development sites? Maybe. And then there's a slew of smaller requirements. New England Donor Services is likely going to end up in Marlborough. They need a specific type of building, what we refer to as like an R&D flex building. It's not really an office tenant. Tetra Tech, Lara and I have had conversations about them. They're looking at Westborough Office Park, and they're also considering Marlborough. We're trying to, see how we can wow them to come to Westborough and choose a building in Westborough versus Marlborough. And then there's a bunch of smaller requirements. And again, these are tenants that will start their search looking all over the market, typically Westborough, Marlborough, Southborough, and then trim it down to 2 or 3 buildings. And then you really have to try to, compete to win them. And then just a minute to talk about what we refer to as workplace strategy. So you probably see in the news a lot, sort of return to work, hybrid work. What are tenants doing? Are people actually occupying these office buildings that oftentimes look vacant that you drive by? So this is just sort of a state of the hybrid policy snapshot. So for example, if you look at the blue, that's fully flexible, and the orange is full-time in office. So if you look at the Fortune 100 companies, you'll notice that there's only 4% that are allowing their employees to be fully flexible, and 30% are saying, I want you full-time in the office. In the middle is that sort of 3 to 4 days a week you can come in and come out. What's interesting, if you look at the top, the companies that have less than 500 employees, your more local companies, they're very flexible. 70% of them are saying you can do what you want because they have a harder time, hiring people and keeping their talent. So they have to offer sort of incentives to their people to keep them from leaving. So it's the larger Fortune 100 companies that we're seeing start to say, you have to come back to the office. We need you in the office. And some of those smaller companies that are continuing to be incredibly flexible. In general, we're seeing hybrid is here to stay. Companies are saying, 2, 3, 4 days in the office, and then you have your 2 days to be at home and, what have you. The bottom chart is actually looking at requirements in the market today. So these are tenants that are looking for space. So you'll see that 32% of total requirements in the market are looking to be in full-time, and 35% are looking for hybrid. So, it's really mimics what we see on the top chart, that in general, people are hybrid, and you're not going to see people in the office every day. But as we see more larger companies start to say you have to be back, smaller companies tend to follow suit. So this just looks at all the companies that we've tracked in sort of their hybrid policy. So on the left, you see your office-centric companies. You guys need to be in the office 4+ days a week. And on the right, you see the companies that have told their people you can be fully remote. In the middle is that hybrid. So Airbnb is sort of hybrid but flexible, but on the other end, Apple is hybrid but gearing more towards being in the office full time. So this, hybrid work has had a huge impact on the commercial real estate market, huge impact on Westborough. We ask our clients all the time, what are badge swipes looking like? Are people coming back? Are the lots getting full? Slowly but surely, yes, but clearly not 5 days a week. It tends to be midweek, and you probably notice it with the traffic. Mondays and Fridays are slower. So it's good in the sense that we've come away from that full remote work. People need office space, but oftentimes it means tenants are downsizing because they don't need all that space. People aren't in there every day. So maybe they say, I'm going to upgrade my image, go to a nicer building, but take a smaller footprint. So we're seeing a lot of that, and that's had a huge impact on the market. So we saw really some good velocity throughout COVID, and then COVID just kind of stopped, and the market took a huge step backwards. And we're starting to rebuild. And unfortunately, the challenges that we're seeing now, I wouldn't say 2025 has been a really robust year for leasing. There's just some macroeconomic challenges, as we're all aware of. Tariffs have been a huge problem. Just, a new administration, a lot of noise. Companies are saying, if I have to make a real estate decision, am I going to do that now, or am I going to wait to see how things shake out? So I think a lot of these larger requirements, these tenants that have been on the market, are taking a lot of time to make these decisions, thinking really hard about, economics and do I wait 6 months and see kind of how everything plays out with the tariffs? And then lastly, I just wanted to put a couple slides about the industrial market. Obviously, there's a huge amount of industrial space in Westborough as well. The industrial market had a huge boost throughout COVID when people were, leasing warehouse space left and right to keep up with the supply chain. You'll see, compared to the office slide, the industrial market is much healthier. In Westborough, there's a 2% vacancy rate, so those buildings are very well occupied. These rents are triple net rents, but they're very robust. You've seen rent growth, obviously coming out of COVID, those rents have gone up and up and up. And now on a triple net basis, 13.86 is a pretty good industrial rent. This is compared to the greater market. Again, total 495 Mass Pike West, we're seeing 4.8% vacant in the industrial market. So you'll see why some of those larger development sites, the potential owners are going to look at industrial development and not office development. It's just a better bet for them. And then flex is sort of the sweetheart of the market right now. Flex is what we refer to as sort of R&D, maker space. A lot of solar companies, battery companies that might need some office space, but also some tile floor warehouse space would look for a flex building. It's sort of a hybrid office industrial building. We're seeing a lot of office buildings being converted to flex buildings. Again, a healthier market when you look at the numbers, 8% vacancy and much chunkier rents compared to the office market. So it'll be interesting to see if we see some more sort of Class C, B, C office buildings that are vacant start to be converted to flex buildings. And the way you would do that is potentially add more loading docks, potentially take out some of the second floor plate to create high bay space, to allow that office building to function more as an industrial building. And that's sort of it from us. That's just sort of a macro look at the market. But I think in general, there's some really great opportunities in Westborough from, great landlords out there like Caruth Capital who have done a great job sort of marketing their space. We have some really nice development opportunities that I went over. So it'll be interesting to see sort of as time goes on what happens with those.
I'd just like to make a comment on one of your earlier slides, Allison, when you had these stats up for office. It was a 10-year look back. But if you went back 20 years, it wouldn't look any different. The rents in 2005 were basically $18, and now they're up to $22.50. Here's the problem with that. The expenses that the landlords incur to run those buildings are 50% of those rents. It costs about $12 a foot to run a Westborough Office Park building between real estate taxes and all the operating. So if you turn these into net rents, it's cheaper to rent an office space than it is a warehouse space or an R&D space. And the other comment regarding when developers will build, sort of the rule of thumb is when there's a vacancy rate of about 10%, that's sort of equilibrium, and at that point, a developer would build an office building, most likely, which hasn't been the case for a long time. Build-to-suits are obviously much different.
The rents are just so much higher for a tenant to justify new construction versus existing construction. A lot of landlords might have a big block of space and say, I'm going to market it as sort of a renovate to suit. So I'm going to keep my existing building, but offer a tenant an attractive way to make it their own. And that seems to be what we've seen more of than tenants actually choosing to pay that huge premium and build a new building. So Any questions?
Between Marlborough and Westborough, a little competition going on. So how, as a committee, we really want to attract these businesses here. There's a lot of vacancy here in Westborough, so which doesn't help our restaurants and doesn't help our shopping, and so we want to get the people in here. What are the types of things that we should be doing more of, or kind of what are you hearing?
So one thing to keep in mind about vacancy is, and our numbers don't reflect this, is the Class A market's a lot healthier than the B and C market. So the buildings like on Westborough Office Park are much more full, and the rents are higher than they are at some of the standalone buildings you might see on Route 9 who are less attractive. So, amenities are important, lobby and curb appeal is important, and ownership is becoming incredibly important. People want to have a good partner. So there is, so I do think you want to encourage people to keep their buildings, modern and spend the money to and be a good landlord partner. But furthermore, I think there's really two things that we see. Is we see a lot of TIFs offered in Marlborough, so tax increment financing, and sort of there's all different ones, and I can actually distribute, Lara, to you. They have a website, the Marlborough Economic Development, where they kind of go over some of the a menu of items they might offer a tenant. I think they used to be much more enticing than they are now. I don't know if their budgets just changed, but over the years it's changed quite a bit. Two other things I'd mention is, a lot of these tenants have very short timelines when looking to relocate. So permitting and construction and any sort of loopholes to get into the building create a problem. So we want to make sure that they can pull that building permit really quickly, that the inspection goes smoothly, and that we're helping them make this as seamless as possible, which is definitely something that's realistic, and I think every community tries to do. But you don't want to have a reputation of being difficult to pull a permit. It takes longer than 30 days. Oh, the building inspector's been challenged. You want it to make it obviously as seamless as possible. And then the other thing I would say is, in terms of some of this, newer construction and development site, is just making it attractive for a developer owner to want to purchase that. So maybe there's some sort of tax, some tax incentive for, a developer coming in and buying one of these big land sites and helping them develop it and make it, obviously it improves the town when these aren't empty buildings and empty land sites, when there's something more attractive. So do you agree, Bob?
Well, yeah, it's a great point, because unfortunately some tenants, they don't think of the process in the right frame of mind, where they think you can get into space within 30 days, 60 days. It takes months and months and months if you're building it out. And the problem that they run into is, oh shoot, I ran out of time, so they have to renew wherever they are. So the speed to getting tenants in is hugely important, for sure. And if there are incentives that can be offered.
Yeah, and then just having, I know you were helping us with Tetra Tech, just making that phone call and saying, Westborough wants you here, and what can we do to help, is always super important. So.
The other comment you made is on improving the buildings. When you think about the inventory in these surrounding towns, the buildings are at least 30, most of them are at least 30 to 40 years old. Right. Almost everything's an old digital equipment building. And Allison probably doesn't know digital. I know she knows digital, but so because they're so old, they need improvements. They need the bathrooms redone, the lobbies, whether it's a little fitness center or a conference center, something that can turn the building into a modern building or close to one. Because inside the space, you can spend as much money as you want.
And as we mentioned, the rents are so tight between your operating expenses, paying your brokerage commissions, your tenant improvement dollars, that there's so little money left over sometimes for these landlords to spend on operating expense, to buff up their operating budget and make the building more attractive. So that's a problem.
That's another thought I didn't even think of. I was talking to you before about the expenses that a landlord has to incur to run one of these buildings. The cost to build out space now has gone up significantly in the last even 6 years.
Yeah.
So that again becomes another problem when you're only working with $10 of net rent, and you're paying construction costs and you're paying fees. There's not much left on the bone.
Tenants want a turnkey solution, so they're not going to say, "Oh, I'm going to invest $200,000 to build out my space." They want the landlord to pay for all of that. So if you're a landlord that the budget doesn't make sense, the numbers don't work, you can't compete. So,
Great, thank you. Any other questions?
I just had one on flex space. How much flex space does Westborough have?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know if I have that on the slide. I'd have to look into that. Probably not as much as you think. It's a smaller segment of the marketplace, and we define it differently. You know, there's sort of traditional flex buildings that were built single-story, fully air-conditioned, almost quasi-industrial buildings, and now we're seeing sort of this new asset class, which is an office to flex conversion, or a sort of like a more creative flex building. So I can follow up on, I don't know the size of the market, but it's not as big as you'd think.
We would consider like 40 Washington Street Flex as a loading dock. The 120s Flanders Road, not 120, but the ones across the street, that park, most everything in that little section of Flanders. And then a little bit to the east on Flanders Road.
Yeah.
They're kind of a tweener between high bay versus flex.
Big chunk of it is in Hopkinton right now. I think, obviously there's not a lot of vacant flex space in Westborough, but there are potentially opportunities to create more with some of these conversions.
Great. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. Anyone else?
Thank you.
Do you want me to just leave this?
Thank you.
Thank you so much for your time today and all the research. It was very helpful.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Jenny, you are up. We have a zoning update from Jenny and then a planning department report. So you gonna go up?
Hopefully it works.
We have Aiden if it doesn't.
So far, I see it up there.
And it's here, so we're good.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Jenny Gingras, Director of Planning. So this presentation is going to be about the zoning changes that we're bringing to town meeting in October. And the zoning changes really have to do with the downtown. We're also cleaning up some areas of the bylaw that were redundant or confusing for enforcement, things like that. But I think you'll find the changes really positive for businesses. So why are we updating the zoning? I explained a few of those reasons a second ago, but we're also following the downtown plan that was done in 2024. As you know, that recommended some zoning changes, some ways to promote better economic development, and then also transportation. But this focus is specifically about the zoning. So in changing the zoning, we're trying to promote a vibrant mixed-use downtown. It also simplifies those bylaws for clarity, consistency, and so that a business coming in can have predictability also on what they can and can't do in the downtown area. And in that, it also encourages that investment, redevelopment, and the small business growth. So I really attempted with AI how to explain zoning and overlay districts. So I don't know if this is a good way, but please give me feedback. So this explains that downtown right now, we have multiple zoning districts. So in downtown Westborough, we have the downtown business district, we have an industrial district, and we have residential. So that's what we consider downtown. Those are the base zoning districts. And then we also have an overlay district called the Downtown Planning Overlay District, which only covers part of those districts, those base districts. And with that, right now, a developer can come in and they have a lot of flexibility to do a development with housing or mixed use, but it's a special permit through the planning board. So that overlay district covers like Bay State Commons and a few of the surrounding areas, but it does not cover all of downtown. So we are proposing, because there's so many different moving parts there, to eliminate the downtown planning overlay district and instead just create one base district, essentially just saying what we want downtown. So we're expanding it slightly, which I'll show on the map, to cover those lots that are have a residential use but are used as a commercial use. We're revising the use regulations to allow more retail, restaurants, mixed use, creative spaces. Some of those uses were recommended through the downtown plan. We're also consolidating the dimensional requirements into one clear schedule. Before the zoning, we had two different tables, and it was a little confusing for people coming in trying to understand how far is my setback, what's my lot size requirement. So we're consolidating that into one table to make it easier to understand. We're updating the definitions to reflect new uses, modern technology, modern terminology. Our zoning was created decades ago, and so some of those terms are kind of outdated, and people coming in might not know what they mean. And then, like I mentioned, we're amending the zoning map to include additional parcels in the downtown business district. So again, greater flexibility for commercial uses in this district. Site plan review as required would still be there. So if a new developer was coming in and they triggered the need for a site plan review, it would still go through the planning board. The design review board would still have oversight as they do now for exterior design and signage, but right now we have a rule where it's 2,500 feet from the center of the rotary. That's the district of the design review board. So this is changing it to just say it's the downtown business district and the gateway district that they're overseeing, to make it a little easier to understand, which is the way it is now. It's just before it was a little confusing with this circle that was measured. We're also adding bike parking standards as the planning board has done with other zoning changes, and then those inclusionary zoning requirements would still apply. So we're expanding the by right uses. We do already have a lot of uses by right, but we're adding additional ones to be allowed by right. So those are the retail, restaurants, personal services, and then multifamily, which would be a new one that's allowed, would be allowed by right. And the same with the mixed use residential commercial. So this, I do like this diagram. It kind of explains the dimensional standards that would be in place for it. And we do have these dimensional standards already for the downtown business district. We're just, again, making that one base district. So the maximum number of stories would be 4, the maximum height, 60 feet, minimum lot size requirement, 10,000 square feet, and then the frontage, 100 feet. And then one change we made was a maximum setback of 10 feet. So there's no front setback requirement, but if someone wanted to come in and build a new building, they couldn't be set back any more than 10 feet from the front of the property line. And that's to create a more active downtown. There's been a lot of studies shown that when you have buildings closer to the street, you're going to have more walkable, friendly downtown, parking in the rear, which is something that we would like to see. And then we also updated definitions, as I mentioned, and this we feel like makes it more marketable and business friendly to clearly define those contemporary uses, so those are more appealing to people coming in. Again, just the benefits of the amendments. We're supporting downtown revitalization, economic development, encouraging those small businesses, housing opportunities to come in. We're simplifying the zoning for interpretation for staff, but also for people wanting to come in. And then overall, it's creating a more vibrant, walkable downtown. So this is the map here. I know it's a lot to read on the screen, but the orange area, you can't see my mouse on there, but the orange area is the downtown business district. The lighter yellow is the residential, and then green is the our municipal or conservation And then the striped area up by Baker Way, East Main Street at the top of the screen, that's the Gateway District. So I'm sorry, you can't see my mouse, but if you go down closer to School Street, the downtown business district currently cuts off there, so we added a few more parcels west of that and near Church Street that were already used as a commercial use, but they were zoned residential. And then we also cleaned up the lot lines, the zoning lines up near Baker Way. So a couple of those parcels were both in the downtown business district and the Gateway District. So we just put them in the downtown district. One thing I wanted to talk about was pre-existing non-conforming uses without getting too much into explaining what zoning is. I won't do a zoning 101 thing. But we've had a lot of questions on this, so I felt like it was important to talk about. So a pre-existing non-conforming use, you may have heard of it as a grandfathered use. It's a use that complied with zoning and development regulations at the time it was created or built, but because of changes to that zoning, it no longer complies with those regulations. So an example could be in a residential district, there are single-family residential district, there might be a multifamily, but because they're in the single-family residential district now, it's technically pre-existing non-conforming. They can continue the use, but technically right now it's not allowed if someone wanted to come in and do a new multifamily in that district. For the downtown specifically, any pre-existing non-conforming use can stay. This does not change. The zoning does not change their ability to stay in place. If any new use came in, then that's when they would need to comply with the zoning. So we did get a lot of questions specifically about the auto-related uses. There was a misunderstanding that maybe we would be requiring a special permit. Right now, if a new auto use was coming in, like a new gas station or new auto repair, they would require a special permit. Right now, or under the proposed zoning change, same thing. We're not changing that special permit requirement. Existing auto uses, they don't need to do anything. They exist. There's no change. So I just wanted to make that clear. So next steps, we're going to town meeting in October, and so I hope that this committee supports the article. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anytime you simplify and make it clear, it's good for businesses, so thank you. Any other comments?
And I can bring up the actual tables and things like that if you want me to go over them. But they're also on our website if you want to do it individually.
Okay. Good? All right, awesome. Thank you. You want to stay there? You want to come back here and do your planning report?
Oh, what's my planning report? That was my planning report.
Planning department report.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of what other things we have coming in for planning board. We will have 210 Turnpike Road coming back next week for the potential Starbucks development. That'll be coming back to the planning board for a special permit for the drive-through use of the Starbucks. We have 165 Flanders Road coming in, which is Cumberland Farms. They reapplied. That had been going on for a couple years, but they're looking to do a detached warehouse type building, which is the same as before. And I think that's about it for coming in for planning, but we've really just been focused on working on the zoning and getting out there, talking to the businesses, the property owners about the changes in the zoning, and then also about the downtown project, looking at the Rotary.
Awesome, thank you. How can we help as a committee?
Well, one of the things that, for at least the Rotary project specifically, which we're still looking at, we're comparing options on how to solve the issues that are there. But we did develop a short survey for the businesses. We really want to know about parking and how parking would affect the businesses. And talking to the residents and people through our outreach, we found that most people did not mind walking from a parking lot to the business. They didn't feel like they had to park right in front of the store. With the potential changes to the Rotary, it's possible that we might have to lose some of those parking spaces because the situation is currently a little unsafe, backing into the Rotary in some areas. So we want to know from the businesses how they feel about that and then what's a good solution for them, because we don't want to affect their business, obviously.
Yeah. Okay.
So help with that would be great, just getting the word out and, getting feedback.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Jenny?
Is there any ability to have the town purchase some land around the center so we can park if we go through Rotary changes? I mean, we have some of this uses you talked about. There are some maybe more affordable pieces of land that could be acquired. I don't know, but
You mean to
other
use for a
cities
parking
have,
lot?
Yeah, because right now the parking is pretty limited.
Yeah,
So
it is.
if
And one of the things that we
other
would
towns
look
have
at.
parking lots that the cities own.
We do have a municipal lot or a couple areas where people can park, but not a lot of people knew about it. Like, for example, the lot behind the South Street Diner. So hopefully the wayfinding plan will help with that. In terms of other areas, one of the things that we would look to do with this is partner with a developer coming in to do a grant to be able to fund the construction, but part of that could be partnering on creating a parking garage or a parking lot and sharing that parking with them. But in terms of purchasing lots, that's,
Just trying to
yeah.
increase parking, because I agree, if you want to make the downtown more vibrant, you need to pull people in, they need to park, just realistically, right?
Right.
So
Right. And we did a parking utilization study, and the parking is actually very underutilized. You'll find a lot of parking like right in front of the businesses, but in other areas, if you had to walk, a block, you're not finding the parking in those areas necessarily. So we do have a lot of parking. It's just, I think, more of understanding where it is,
Great.
which we need help with.
In your outreach, how have people felt about changing the Rotary? Obviously, traffic nightmare that I have to go through every day, but just from the aesthetics of the town, have you got a feel for what people think about that?
I think overall it's been pretty positive. People do see an issue with the downtown. There's definitely people that say they, don't want any change, but a conversation that I've had many times, or feedback I've had more than a few times, when I ask, well, what do you like about the Rotary? What do you like about it right now? How it exists? I'm trying to get more detail. And they really like that it has a historic center, that it has the monument. They really like during the holidays, they do the lights. So they like the feel of that. And then they like that it's round, that it, even though sometimes traffic can back up, they feel like they're flowing through. So with those things in mind, if we can keep those things, but make modifications so that it's more safe for pedestrians and it's not as ambiguous when you're driving through on if you should yield, stop, drive straight through, then I think they would be okay with those changes. Okay. If that answers your question.
I'm curious.
Okay.
Thank you. Awesome. Thank you.
Jenny, how many respondents have you had to the survey in total, do you know?
For the businesses? Yeah. I'm not sure on the businesses. We've been going around and talking to them verbally. One thing that we are struggling with is getting the actual written data, which I know is hard for a business owner because you're so busy to write down the response, but we thrive on that data. We need that written data. Me going around and talking and, you know, writing down the notes isn't always good enough. I need, you know, to have a response on a survey. That's more helpful for me. But in terms of like residents and things, we've had over 200 responses from like written comments, and then we've been doing outreach. My office has been doing outreach at the farmers market. We went with Westborough Connects to participate in the Belonging Bus at one of their events, and then we attended the Westborough for Life event this past weekend. So we've definitely been out there talking to a lot of people.
When does the survey close?
It's open,
For a while?
yeah, for a while. So we don't have a specific close date, but we can definitely distribute it if.
Yeah, that would be good.
Yeah.
I'm going to send out a newsletter, and it's on there as well.
Perfect. Okay, great.
Jenny, we talked a couple times about the amount, how the truck traffic impacts the downtown, obviously, and there's limited amount we can do with redirecting it. But in terms of the sound, it's pretty oppressive as someone who's been sitting on the Rotary for 25 years. What can we do to get engine braking restrictions and signage up? Do you think it's advisable?
Yeah, the consultant definitely heard that feedback from you and from others also, that it is loud. So they're going to make some recommendations on whether that can be done to put signage up to restrict that from happening.
Okay.
Everybody good? Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Great presentation and really good hard work. Thank you. All right. Laura, you are up.
Good morning, everyone. Laura Crawford, Economic Development Coordinator.
Morning.
So welcome back. I'm going to kind of run through some updates that we did throughout the summer, and then also going into fall, some plannings. Just on the branding and wayfinding project, the first, we'll call it the first phase, which was with Beta, that's officially ended. We have a master plan. It was presented at the select board over the summer. It was not voted on. There was nothing really to vote on except for we're accepting the logo. We've started with a short project called Shop Drawings, which would move us into the ability to do an RFQ or I'm not sure exactly how the actual end of the request for proposals will be. There's several different terminologies, so I'm just going to call it a request for a quote, but it might not actually be that in particular. But the idea would be to have fabrication, installation, bid on, and then be able to have the signs fabricated over the winter and then installed. Before that happens, of course, the select board has to approve the locations. And I've suggested with Fred that we actually go out and before the RFQ goes out, really look at the actual locations that were suggested on the master plan, and look at, do we want it on the east side, west side, north side? Like where do we really want it? Because we have to get down to that granular level for the select board. We were not going to get to it needs to be exactly in this spot. I think that's really down to we'll go on to which sides, but maybe not exactly at this point. And that would be, we don't know what's underground and how it will be installed. So but we should be able to get to really good. We think it should be here. We think it should be here. And hopefully that'll work for the select board. Okay, so Westborough Main Street Trick or Treat, Mike and I have talked about it. It's planned for October 28th. I've got the letter sort of to the businesses geared up. We'll work on signing up businesses as well. Mike and I are talking about how to really include Bay State in, and how we can do that. There's now, I think, between Mike and I think we've spoken to 5 businesses along Bay State that would be included. I've also had additional conversations with the police department to make sure from a safety standpoint that would be okay. So we're in the works. It's now September 9th. So I think for October 28th, we're doing pretty good for pre-planning. And I just wanted, this was from last year, but I just thought for folks who really haven't, well, most of you have, but maybe some of you haven't, really you can see on the picture on the right and the top left, the businesses really get involved. They really enjoy it. And the bottom one was just our team. I wanted to throw that picture in. Stay tuned for our theme.
It's always fun coming to downtown.
All right, so looking to the fall, the sign bylaw. So Jenny's through a grant, we have contracted with a contractor, Giardi, thank you, contracting. They're looking at the sign bylaw. This would be town-wide, but specifically really looking at also what's downtown. Trying to clear up and clean up with more clarity and predictability, just like from Jenny's earlier presentation for other zoning, for businesses who have to submit for sign permits, et cetera. And so we're working with them. I'm trying to get surveys out to businesses and so forth. They have interviewed. They interviewed Sandy. They interviewed Historical Commission, Planning Board, DRB, et cetera. Sandy represented sort of both this committee and also just from a business standpoint, what might be some concerns, or what are the concerns from businesses. Yeah, so that's moving along. They're going to have, they'll give suggestions for Jenny. I think it'll go to the select board as well before getting to town meeting. October 14th, save the date. We're going to, and my next slide, I'll describe a little bit more about this, but we're going to begin planning. Summer 2026 has a lot of events coming in. We think that the hotels, restaurants, and retail have opportunity to garner all the people who will be into Massachusetts. We're hoping to really put Westborough on the map. Also, November 5th. Yes, I guess that must be it because I wrote it down. But Com was in here on June or July, the AI presentation. So I've now worked with him. We've scheduled a meeting. He'll do a workshop 101 for businesses, and I'm going to start marketing that registration link. Next month, we'll be looking at the business assistance grant applications. We have currently 6 of them, and I think I just got another one this morning, so that's 7. There's also sign grant applications as well. We're trying to keep for the sign applications just separately to use up that pot of money. And then, of course, town meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, October 21st. Save the dates. So with some grant money, we became a member of the Metro West Boston Visitors Bureau. I believe that tourism is really closely tied to the key targets for economic development, and I'm really excited about this partnership. So with them, the October 14th meeting, we will be bringing in businesses to really discuss how we can take advantage of 4 big events that are coming up in the summer of 2026. Mass 250, World Cup, Tall Ships, and the Highland Games, which will be in Sudbury. So our hotels, there'll be more, I'll give you more update after this meeting, but I think there are opportunities for partnerships and packages. So you stay at the hotel and then you maybe take a bike ride with Landry's or something, or, you work out or you have breakfast somewhere or something. So create more opportunities to spread it out. They do tons of marketing. They also talk to bus tour operators and travel agents, and they work with their members, and there's several from Westborough, to really promote like a day in Westborough or a weekend in Westborough. And there's blogs, there's their website, there's all sorts of other publications that they put out. So again, I'm really excited about this, and we just became members, so looking forward to that. So I just wanted to, I just want to fall back on the EDC annual award because we never actually closed out the loop on what the finances were. I think it was on the agenda and somehow it got skipped, and then, so I just wanted to show the accounting on the left-hand side, the beginning balance, that was what the accounting account had, $2,200. You guys spent a total of $3,366. You brought in $2,700, and so the ending balance now, you're starting off with $1,500. And then on the right-hand side, where the expenses were: Curry Printing, the catering, Crown Trophy, and then the photography with Christine McShane. And then the sponsorship, those were where the dollars came in. So you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Sponsors, I think Karen had some great ideas for sponsorships, different kinds of tiers and so forth. So that might be in the works as well. But I just wanted to close the loop out on that. And I think that's it. Any questions?
Looks good.
Yep, what's the time for the Halloween trick-or-treat night? What's the time?
4 to 6:30.
4 to 6, thank you.
And I'll just say it's really generally run town hall, Forbes, fire department, police department, sort of town run is this area, and then the businesses. How far down we've gone previously was all the way to like CVS, to actually your office, to Gaudette's. I don't know how successful that is, getting folks to go that far. So I do want to find out whether we should truncate the area. But if people are walking down there, they're going to Yummy Mummy or to Learning Express or something, and further on down, I'm happy. But I want to make sure that it's conducive.
Well, especially with adding in Bay State, like having Bay State be more involved than they've been before, so that will expand a little safer.
Yeah, I mean, I
pedestrian
think
traffic.
we could do it where they walk down Union down behind, where Mike's store is on that level, come out by Brio, and then sort of come back up. That might be it, because there's only gas stations right there anyway. I don't think they typically have not participated. So that might make sense. I'll draw out, like, there'll be a map and I'm going to work on the map a little bit from last year, and maybe there's more of a how to actually walk it or something.
Gotcha. Yeah. Karen, did you have anything else?
No, I just always get a call saying, don't go downtown. It's trick-or-treat night. Traffic-wise, which is a great thing. I always get a call, don't go down there. It's trick-or-treat night.
You're smart,
So
you know.
that's a good thing.
Cindy,
Good
I just
turnout.
had one quick thing.
Of course.
Well, so we have hired a new sustainability coordinator, which I'm glad to hear, and her name is Lila Ahmed. So if you have a chance to see her, one of the things that will be coming in front of this board in the next few months is the town, through Sustainable Westborough, is looking to do a climate leaders community. Part of that is to vote in for the town to opt in specialized energy code. So at some point, that committee should be giving a presentation to this board to get feedback on that.
Great. Thank you. Laura, do you have new business openings?
Oh, yeah, sorry.
That's okay.
There actually hasn't been.
Okay.
Yeah, so I already mentioned Tribe.
The spa.
I mean, Tribe and Brio we've already announced that they're coming or opening, but they do plan on opening in September.
And then the VFW building, which I read in the Community Advocate.
Yeah, that was sold.
Yeah, yeah.
And Chow Rasta has their sign up on the Uno's building. Are they close to opening? Chow Rasta?
Depends on how you define close. Excuse me.
And then
Just when they see a sign, I'm like, oh, it must be opening soon. No.
I mean, they're in their building permit phase, so.
Yeah, and then what about the Wakenzo's steakhouse? Like, there's Mexican going in there? There's a
I
sign up there now.
have done my due diligence, like I've reached out to them 150 times and I do not hear back from them. So I had originally thought that they were opening in August. It's obviously September now. The paper's still up. They have, I don't know if they've gotten the full sign off on building permit, but they're done.
Yep.
And they have their sign permits. So
Okay.
I don't know what's
I think
holding
the
it up.
ABCC still has their liquor license.
Sorry?
I think the ABCC is still working on the liquor license.
Okay, so that might be it. Okay, and then Chill. Also, John. I spoke to John. He's getting his work. You know, the contractors and everything, and the everything ready to apply. I think he has his liquor
It's
license.
submitted. I don't know that he has it
Okay,
yet.
so he was early on that one,
Yeah.
though. So building permit, not doing a great deal of work. He actually hopes to open sometime either early, maybe before Christmas, but I think January.
Yeah, yeah. I'm meeting with him on Friday. Oh, awesome. Any questions for Laura? Is Craft Lab open?
No.
Okay.
Not yet. Another week, maybe?
Okay. Okay, great. Any new?
How's the Big Y doing? Any feedback?
I actually walked in there the day before they opened, thinking it was opened, and they accepted me with open arms, and I had a nice little tour and everything. But every time I drive by, I mean, it is busy. So I have not heard. I left my business card, but nobody's reached out to me. So.
Okay. Great. Awesome. Any new business he wants to bring up?
Dave and I talked about the EDC awards. Thank you for sending us all the information, Laura. And so we really want to get some feedback from the committee on what the dates we think is going to be best, because I know securing a guest speaker is the hardest part about it. And determining the times of years, and you submitted some dates to us. So, January 23rd, 30th, or February 6th, 13th, 27th, or March 6th, 13th, and 27th. We briefly talked about it. I know we want to avoid anything near school vacation.
Right.
So, we recommend too, not during school vacation week or not the week before school vacation week, because we want to heavily promote the event. So it really comes down to making a decision on when we want to have it so that we can start talking about a potential guest speaker. If it's as early as January, which they used to having it in January, yeah. So feedback, and so that we can make some other decisions about moving on. And anybody have any strong opinions about it?
I'd like to see us get back to the early January and just get us back to, we finished the year, we have the awards ceremony, and, we actually celebrate the year versus, rolling into spring. So that'd be my preference, late January, early February.
Yeah, it appears that the third week is vacation week, at least in Westborough, for February, school vacation week.
Yeah, I don't think that's on the list.
No,
Right.
but it's around the time you still want to promote, so we don't want to do it around that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like January 30th.
Yeah, I would say the
myself.
tail end of January.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously the snow is a risk, but
It's always a risk.
February's just as
Well,
bad.
look at
Traditionally, it
Look
has
at the
not
expo.
snowed in January. The last couple of years, I said it out loud, but February becomes high risk.
Yeah.
Definitely. And I don't know, people are telling me it's going to be a rough winter. I don't listen to them.
I mean, I think we're
hope
gonna.
so.
I
I
think
do not hope so.
vested interest for me. So.
I know, it's great for you.
Yeah.
For event purposes, it's a nightmare for
I just
me,
need a little
so.
dusting.
Yeah,
It doesn't have to
I get
snow
what you're
just
saying.
dusting. Remind
You know
me.
what, I wish it for the snow, all the snow caps for both your, anything on the road around here, no. But anywhere else is fine.
Yeah, I think January.
January 30th?
Yep. Everyone good with that? Yep. Decision
Is
made?
anybody interested in having the new Secretary of Economic Development come as the speaker, Eric Paley? Because I think you had a good meeting the last time. Was it Yvonne that came?
Yeah. Yeah,
But Eric Paley, I think, is the new secretary, so,
that would be great.
okay.
If it's an EDC
January
event,
30th?
having the EDC, yeah, that'd be awesome.
Guess we're going to meet and start talking about potential businesses too,
Look
right?
at you go, girl. Love it. All right. Our October meeting, we are going to have committee updates, so we'll get updates from you, a formal update from you guys, from the ambassador committee. Eric, Mike, wherever you want to join, kind of let us know and where we need the help. Chrissy, anything for you? No? Okay. Anything else?
There will be a lot of business assistance
yeah,
grants. So
yeah.
that, I think we'll have the agenda will be sort of truncated. It'll be grants and maybe a committee
The
report.
committee updates, yeah.
And I think Mike wants to sort of represent the small business
Yeah.
area, so helping me with different kinds of events that are going on and reaching small downtown businesses and
Okay.
et cetera.
Perfect. Awesome. Well, if there's nothing else, we started late, we end early. Look at that. Motion to adjourn?
Seconded.
What?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Third, fourth.
Aye. Okay, have a great month, everybody. Thank you so much.